I am Aisling, and you are about to listen to the first episode of a No One Likes Us Talking special with the legendary fan, Jeff Burnige. Before that, just a reminder that our weekly Our Millwall fan show returns on Friday the 22nd of July. Don't miss it. Enjoy.
Hello, I am Jeff Burnage, and on the 29th of April 1972 I had the privilege to witness what I believed was the first ever promotion for Millwall to the top flight of the Football League. On the 29th of April 2022 I had the opportunity to host Millwall players from that day: Dennis Burnett, Alan Dorney, Steve Brown and Bryan King. It all took place at the Millwall Community Trust's Lions Centre, where we relived the memories of 50 years ago and more with a great audience. This is the first part of the stories told from that night.
Just a couple of introductory remarks. 3 of the 4 players here were Bermondsey boys. 1 was a bloody Essex boy. So we won't go into details who was who, but Dennis, Al and Steve are all Bermondsey lads, so you know who the Essex boy was. We've got some messages from players that couldn't get here. George Jacks had a difficult operation today, otherwise he would have been here, and he sends his best wishes. Barry Bridges, who, those of you who listen to Eamon's No One Likes Us Talking podcast, he was a guest a couple of weeks back. It's Barry's 81st birthday today, which means that on that game, the famous game, Barry was on his birthday. So that's an interesting thing to think about. The other one that couldn't be here was Dougie. Dougie lives now in the West Midlands, and his excuse is he had to mend his fence. But I know he's going on holiday, I think on Sunday or Monday. So if your fence needs repairing, you've got to stop and do that. But perhaps a bit shy, Doug, because he doesn't look as young as he used to. Not like the rest of us up here. One other thing is the team on the day. Most of you could recite it, I think. But Bryan King, Brian Brown, Harry Cripps, Alan Dorney, the late great, and they're all great, Barry Kitchener, that's worth a bit of contemplation on its own, my real hero, and Dennis Burnett. And then midfield you had the Gordon Bolland, who I'll talk about later, or perhaps we all will, Eamon Dunphy and Dougie. And up front there was the lightning duo of the Poss and Barry Bridges. Anyone name the sub on the day? It was one sub in those days.
Smithers.
Derek Smithers, thank you very much. I had to look it up, clearly you didn't. What else can I say? I would like to remind people as well that, can anybody tell me who won Millwall's Player of the Year in 1972? He's here.
Jeff Burnage.
Thank you. I got Wanker of the Week, but never Player of the Year. Does anybody want to have a guess which of these 4 gentlemen won Player of the Year? It had to be Kingy. He claims he won it twice, is that right?
No, once.
Only once. And where were you presented with it? Do you remember?
No idea.
You remember it?
A pub somewhere.
A pub somewhere.
It would have been twice, but he dropped it first time.
I think that's all you need to hear from me. What I'd like to do is I'd like to let the floor open to the floor straight away. Please ask questions. Put your hand up. I'll try and spot you. And some questions we'll get each of the players to answer, but some of your questions might be for a particular player. So I would be grateful if someone, please, will start it off. Everyone's shy, aren't they? Right over the back. What's your name, sir?
My name's Nick. Did anybody on the board go to the Late Northern game? Did you do that?
Did anybody here go to the game against Lake Norien on the Tuesday?
Birmingham won.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
I was there.
What you got?
Yeah.
Dennis, what's your recollection of that game? Was it Ben?
Can I say anything?
You can say anything. Is it being recorded? Yes. Never mind.
Right, well, I'll tell you a story about that. We had a supporter of Millwall He was a scrap metal dealer, and Birmingham needed to lose against Leyton Orient. If they did, we would have won, and we'd have gone into the First Division. So he phoned me up, this gentleman, I won't mention his name, and he said, "Do you know anybody at Leyton Orient?" So I said, "Yeah, I do." So he said, "I've got some money." He said, "Can you give it to them?" This is true, he said, and that. So I phoned Mark Lazarus up, who some of you know. Very genuine guy. I wouldn't want to cross him. And I phoned him up, and he lived near me at Romford. I used to live out at Ilford, then ran that way. So I said to him, "Mark," I said, "are your boys interested in any extra benefit for the game?" So he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, we've got one of our guys once got a bundle of cash. I think it was about £15,000 at the time, which was quite a lot of money." And he said, I said, "He's prepared to pay if you really do the business and if you beat them, and that's for you." So he said, "Right, okay, I'll do that." But unfortunately, on the night, they weren't the best team. Birmingham did play well.
No, Birmingham offered him 20.
I didn't want to say that.
That's
but,
when you first told me that story, that was the punchline.
yeah. But
What about you? Did you go to that game?
Yes.
And what's your recollection of that?
Well, I went with Raymond Dunphy.
Yeah.
And it was, as Dennis said, pretty obvious from early on in the game that well, something exceptional was going to have to happen for the team we wanted to win. And I think they scored early in the first half, and it was 1-0, I think, the result. But I don't think Orient had a shot on goal.
No.
That was when the bomb scare came.
What he didn't tell you was that was him. There was a call box outside the ground, wasn't there, for the bomb scare?
No.
Were you there, Brownie?
Nah.
Staying at home?
Yeah, no.
Foregone conclusion, was it?
I think most people
Thought that.
Yeah.
thought that, yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to say that if you look at the record of that year, Birmingham went on an unbelievable run. I think they more or less won their last 17 games or something like that. And, you know, we did falter a little bit. There was games where we should have probably got a result and we didn't. And that was the way the cookie crumbled, really. But we was all upset, I know that. That was the way it went.
Question
So
for you.
bearing in mind it didn't happen, and we was all pissed off at that. The 90 team what went up was a great team.
Well, I think go over.
No, but I mean, had you gone
You've
up,
already said that.
had you gone up that year, how do you think we'd have done, or you'd have done as players in the First Division if you had gone up?
Well, we'll ask Brian first.
I think we'd have done okay. We had some very good players. Obviously it'd have been very difficult against the teams we were going to, because of their budgets and our budgets, even in those days. But we had some good players. I mean, we had some really good players.
Yes.
These two here, for a start. I know Stevie was on the bench a lot, but I mean, we had young players and we had top quality players with the Post and Bridgeau, Dennis Kitch, and Dorney, and of course Harry. Harry weren't a good player, but by Christ, I tell you what, if it was down to energy and enthusiasm, Harry was top of the tree. I think we'd have given teams problems, and they'd certainly have problems coming to our place, that's for sure, because they'd have never experienced anything like that.
What do you think, Dan?
No, I think, like Brian, really, I think if you look at it, the games we played in the years that I was here, we played against Spurs in a cup match. We drew with them here, and we got beat at White Hart Lane 1-0. And I think Gilzine scored a magic goal. We played, I think, Leicester down here because I remember Alan Clark played, and we didn't get turned over. Almost all of the First Division teams that we played, we didn't get turned over by any of them really. So I know it's different, but I think with a little bit of input from the club that would have perhaps bought a couple of better players in certain positions just to strengthen them.
Not yours, though.
Well, no, I suppose not. But no, I mean, just generally all round. And I think we would have held our own.
Yes.
But, you know.
Do you agree?
Yeah, like Dennis said, I mean, we also beat Everton in the cup when they were, and Nottingham Forest, I think, as well. And we only lost 1-0 to Wolves, I think, and that was...
Yeah.
That was a year or so later, wasn't it? That cup run. We won at Everton.
Yeah.
And then I think Derek Dugan
Like Wolves away, that was a terrible. We should have
John Richards goal. And we were the best side.
We were.
We were the better side against Wolves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You played in that game, I think.
Yeah.
He was
Wolves
my
game.
man in the match.
And that was 1-0, wasn't it? We got beat.
1-0.
Yeah, John Richardson scored early.
Against Wolves in the...
Yes.
We were unlucky in that one. And
That
they had
was-
a good side then, and all Wolves.
They did.
He said a few wrong things, didn't he, Derek Dugan? And I remember in the you had a moan at him, didn't you?
Who?
Dennis.
No.
Dennis. Yeah, I remember.
Not like me.
He said to him, "You said all the wrong things."
I bet he didn't put it like that.
Well, no, but it was a case of Dennis stood up for everybody and said, "You're out of order." And when we played, we were the better side.
Yeah.
We played very, very well.
Yes, I think that answers the question really, is whenever we come up against a team from the first division, we more than held our own.
Yeah.
So, you know, but
It wasn't the case like it is today, where a lot of teams that go up struggle to stay up. There weren't quite the same yo-yo clubs then. It would be lovely to have seen what we would have done. There's another question from the floor here.
Not a question, a statement, just to show how strong Millwall were. In May 1965, Millwall won away to Notts County 2-1 in the 4th Division. I remember May 65, and on February the 1st, 67, 8 of those boys played against Tottenham in the Cup and matched them every inch of the way, and only went out to a rather, shall we say, fortuitous goal.
That Spurs game was 1967, and it was just before these were you here as a youngster then, or
Yeah, I played in the youth team.
in the youth team that season? So you were one of the oldest ones then, if you're admitting to that. But that was the previous team, wasn't it? That was Billy Gray's team that he built, and then Benny came in. I can remember this, probably all of you can, but Len Julian's left in 1967 to go to America. A memorable last game where the crowd ran on the pitch and cheered him around the pitch.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite the last game of the season, so he went off to America. That was the breaking up of Billy's team, really, because Benny was here by then. And then we sold Alex Stepney, and with the money, Benny bought in Derek Posse, Keith Weller, Dennis Burnett and Bryan King in the space of a month,
Yeah.
which wasn't bad. And people say if Keith hadn't left in 1970, the team in 72 would have been that little bit stronger because he was an amazing player. I think we would definitely have got up then.
And if we'd have gone up, we'd have stayed up, I'm sure of it.
Can anybody remember any other game apart from that last game against Preston from that season? They've got a question about that. Anybody?
Birmingham away. With Trevor
Birmingham
Francis.
away, yes.
Yeah, with Dougie and Trevor Francis.
That's Pat. She's got a question. Is it a statement or a question, Pat?
Basically a statement. It's just how nasty it got between the team and... I think I've got newspaper cuttings of Dennis with Trevor Francis.
Yeah, I've got that one.
He was having a fight almost. I think he was right in his face, waving his finger at him.
Everybody, Dennis.
I'm sure you've got a clear recollection of that, Dennis. Can you remember? What's your memory of that game, that Birmingham away game? What was it? About 4 games from the end, was it?
nearly about 5 or 6. Did not get sent off that game.
No,
Birmingham now.
we wish you had.
Getting Billy on that game.
If I can trip some memories, Trevor Francis was
I think
16
they played Billy on.
and
Diving about all over the place.
diving about all over the place. And didn't Bob Hatton go down, cross it over, and Bob Latchford scored, or was it the other way round?
Bob Hatton was offside.
that the goal
Bob Hatton was offside.
offside.
Was
He
it?
got played in behind Alan and Dennis and Kitch, and he was offside.
Yeah.
He shot, I blocked it. It went across the goal, and Bob Latchford knocked it in.
Yeah, I remember that.
And to this day, and what I've seen some videos of it, it was definitely offside.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it made no difference. They won, we lost.
Yeah.
They went up, we didn't.
Yeah.
But it was a fantastic day. I mean, I think they said there were 43,000 in there, but they were saying there's over 50,000 up there, and it was a great atmosphere.
Was it 1-0? We got
1-0.
1-0.
You don't remember it very well, Dennis, do you? Particularly not wagging your finger at Trevor Francis.
What photos are they doing?
Can you remember it, Al?
He was a good player.
What, the
Trevor
game?
Francis.
The game against Birmingham.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
He was only a kid, wasn't he?
it was,
Yeah, didn't we?
you know, well, a bit unfortunate really, I suppose, yeah. We played, as Brian said, as well as we could, and it just wasn't good enough on the day, but as I say, like...
Who were you marking that day?
Well, either Bob Latchford or Hatton, I don't know, like me and Kitch would swap about,
Would
know,
you?
like-
Tell us about that. So how did you decide? How did you two... Because Dennis was played like as a spare man. Sometimes just in front, sometimes sweeping.
Well, he could run faster than me, Barry, so I normally sorted out the one who was slowest.
He was actually quite quick, wasn't he, Kitch? He
was,
wasn't. He
for a
wasn't
big
a slugger.
lad, he was,
He
yeah.
was quite quick.
And he was quite tall as well, he normally marked the biggest
So-
lad.
If there was a big man up front, more often than not, he'd be picking him up.
Yeah, yeah,
And the little tricky one,
yeah.
that'd be
that's it,
you.
Yeah.
Alan's son James was in the audience, and he told me there was a television programme a few years ago, and all our yesterdays type thing, focusing on players like Rodney Marsh and Stan Bowles and Tony Curry and all those, Alan Hudson. And James said to his dad, don't watch that programme because you're on your arse half the time. All those players were taking it round you. To which Alan reputedly said, yeah, they didn't show all the times I had them in my pocket though, did he? So, remember that?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah. Were you involved in that game, Brownie, at Birmingham?
I was in the stand.
Yeah.
Did he give Billy Holmes his debut that day?
Who?
Billy
Billy
Holmes,
Holmes.
remember him? I don't think that's the same game.
No, I don't think Billy was
Do you
involved.
remember
in
him?
that, I don't.
I remember
He was a
him.
fair-head.
Yeah.
He passed away quite young, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, he jumped under a train.
He
I
was.
wasn't
He
going to
jumped
say
under
that.
a train.
Bloody lucky to find a train. I don't know. Another one.
Yeah, Billy.
Really? Is that true?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Who else can remember the Birmingham game, and what's your recollections of it? Anybody here? I mean, you've got to be old to recollect it, but anybody going to own up to having been there? You were there.
Yeah, I was there. I remember Millwall played defensively as they had to, and the crowd were getting furious. After 7 minutes, I think the referee booked you, Brian.
No, that was
Supposedly for
another
tailbacks.
visit to Birmingham when I got booked.
Oh, that was for marking the goal.
That's correct,
wasn't it?
yeah.
But the crowd were booing and whistling after just 7 minutes. Well, in the end, Birmingham got that bent goal, shall we say, and then Millwall came out and attacked. And Gordon Bolland very nearly got an equaliser. It falls to a very good save from the Birmingham keeper. I think his name was Cooper. But no, I remember Doug Alder became the man to send the first Englishman into orbit because he really clattered Trevor Francis, who deserved it because he was taking the proverbial. And I think the referee booked he booked Dougie for that. But now I remember what a nasty atmosphere it was, and how nasty, in my estimation, the Birmingham fans were that day.
They're always a bit nasty up there, but
Yeah.
I must say, I think this... What's your name, sir?
Jim.
Jim's recollection of that day, round of applause for that, come on. I mean, he's remembered it.
We can't remember.
I suspect he's seen a video of it this afternoon to remember it as clearly as that. But mentioning Birmingham, before we move on from that, I mean, Birmingham, I mean, that's a hoodoo. That was 1972, Birmingham stopped us going up. 2022, last week, if we'd won at Birmingham, things would look a lot different now, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Who remembers 2002? The playoff game, the famous, what was that Trinidadian player's name? Anyone remember that?
Stern John.
Stern John. Right, and you know, and there was a police riot outside afterwards, wasn't there? That's our version of it anyway. So, next question, sir.
Another question, because we was kids, that's when, you know, these
I was
heroes
24.
were playing, but now we analyse the game a bit more. Did we have any tactics? Because I don't remember any tactics from those days. So, how did you like set up and go out for games? Because we didn't look for tactics, we just wanted to score goals.
No, I think those days things was a lot different. I mean, excuse me, we was only just saying downstairs. People don't realise that when we trained at Millwall in those days, we used to walk from here. We used to walk with nets with all the footballs on. We used to walk through the bridges and to Deptford Park, to the Ashes. And if it was in the summer holidays or it was Whitsun or Christmas, there'd all be kids kicking about in the goals. So Benny used to say, "All right, boys, just stay there, I'll sort it." So he'd walk up to him and he like Benny, like that, all that from the Tom, and he'd give the boys the spiel that if you get out the pitch now, I'll give you all a ticket for the home game. So because they all cleared off, they never got a ticket, and we got on, and there, you know, that's us, professional football club. We're on a public asphalt grass, and throughout the season we never put boots on. We used to train in plimsolls, not even proper trainers. You know, we just used to have like these slippers that the thing. And you think like what they have nowadays. You know, they have all these sports clinics and all the food and the drink. And
Do you agree with that?
You know, it was a different world.
And what about the pitches, Alan? What about the pitches? What were they like in those days?
Well, nothing how they're compared now. I mean, they're like billiard tables now. And I mean, probably by the end of October, November, you only had a little bit of grass on all four corners, and the rest of it was like a bog.
Yeah.
But they used to roll it flat though, didn't they? If they could.
Well, we had a groundsman, but he wasn't Roy. But he wasn't that efficient.
And his wife and kids came down.
Yeah.
They helped, didn't they?
It was the only ground that we couldn't grow grass. I mean, you couldn't write it, could you?
No.
I remember that time when he found some old pennies in the goal mouth down the cold blown lane, and he pulled me aside. He said, "Do you know what?" he said, "Under there, a lot of money." I said, "What's going on about?" Like he said, "I found some pennies here from 1820. They throw them every Saturday for Christ's sake." Do they? He said, and I said, "Don't, you better fill that hole in, because Benny will go mad if you do that." But no, mate. I mean, the pitches today. I mean,
You
just dream about it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
We had some staff, apart from Roy, you also had a trainer that there's a few stories about, didn't you?
Do you know Jack?
Jack Blackman.
Jack Blackman. Go on, Brian, what can you remember of Jack?
Well, Jack he was the bucket and sponge man, Jack.
Yeah.
And he'd have the bucket, and in that bucket would be a sponge. And the sponge was the same size as a breeze block, you know, that breeze building. And there'd never be any water in it, would there? Because it was all in the sponge. So, if you got injured, I remember I got injured at Ipswich one day, and I got kicked on the ankle, and I'm sitting there, and he comes and he puts his sponge on the back of my neck. I'm soaked as though he'd been in the shower. And I said to him, "What'd you do that for?" "Psychological, son." I said, "Psychological?" He said, "You forgot about your ankle and you're worried about it." And that was the standard of physio we had in that day.
You got any stories about Jack, Dennis? Did you ever get treated by him on the pitch?
No, I never got injured, did I?
No.
I just made sure. I've been all through my career. When I left Millwall and I went to Hull City, and then I went to Brighton and a few other places, I always made sure I had a good centre half alongside me. and it was Kitch and Alan, and at Brighton it was a boy called Andy Rollins, 6'4", and it was always, you get the ball and I'll where it drops and it comes to me. So I was lucky. Didn't get many injuries.
What about you, Alan?
What regarding?
Any stories about Jack coming on to treat you? Or did you, when you saw him coming with that sponge, you thought, "Sod that, I'm getting up"? Is that what you did?
No. We used to have to weigh in on a Monday, and they had a set of scales where you stood on, but if you plunked your backside on a chair behind, you could be whatever weight you wanted. And he used to write it down, and he couldn't make it out how some people were losing £7 a week.
Brownie, you got anything on Jack?
No, I remember we played a reserve game away to Aldershot, and it was bitterly, bitterly cold. And as Brian said, he had this bucket with the sponge. And Danny O'Leary, he was injured. And when he see Jack come on, he jumped up and ran away. And Jack ran after him. Yeah, and he was, "What are you doing, Danny?" He said, "Jack, I'm not having that sponge." No. But that was Jack.
Well, a question over there, yes.
I was just going to say, because I didn't go to the Birmingham Oregon game, but of course we were nervous because we were at the Preston game on the Saturday when everybody ran on and we thought we were up and all that sort of stuff. So we had to wait nervously until the Tuesday night. We know one of our mates, Big Al, went, but for some reason we just didn't go, too nervous. But if you think in those days, now you can click on your phone and find out instantly the score. But they only had BBC Radio 2, this was before 5 Live. And so we had to wait. They gave a report at half time, and I think we were 1-0 down. But I don't, because the game would end, 10 or something like that. I don't remember the score being released until the 10 o'clock news. And we're all sitting there nervously thinking, when are we going to hear the score? Because we didn't know the score. We're thinking, look, this is our club. And they announced the score, I remember, at the end of the 10 o'clock news. We had to wait all the way through. And there's no match report or anything like this, you know. And it was,
Well, I've been told by at least 10 people that it was them that phoned the bomb scare through to the police. Anybody here claiming it was them? Anybody?
No, but I know who it was allegedly.
Yeah, well, one of the 10 probably. Quite a well-known figure, yes. Yes, that's one of the most likely.
Chairman of another football club.
Right, I'd like to ask the lads what their recollection is of the Preston game, the actual game 50 years ago today. Right, that's the game we're here to commemorate. It is a bit Millwall, isn't it, to commemorate one of the saddest days in our history. There you are. If this goes well, I think Eamon's got planned 50th anniversary of us beating Everton at Goodison Park in another year's time. So another chance to come along and reminisce for all those years back. But Preston game. Brian, your recollection?
Well, we played against Charlton on the Tuesday night.
Correct. I was going to come to that.
And
they'll never beat the Millwall, by the way.
That game was a big game because Charlton were on the way down. They were in a relegation fight, and we were second in the league, and we beat them 2-0.
Yep.
And we played well. I mean, they said there was 27,000 in there that night, but it looked far bigger with that big bank where you run out. And what I can remember was that I put my shoulder out. Ray Tracy done one over the top of him and come down, and I put my shoulder out. And that was dear old Jack. He had a good remedy for that. You'll have to excuse my French, young ladies, but Jack said, just sit there, son. I'm going to put my knee in your back, and I'm going to pull your shoulders back, and that'll go back in. So I said, after 3 or 4 attempts, I said, any time tonight, Jack, if you would please. He finally went back. He said, I won't strap it up. And then we were under pressure for the last 10 minutes. I think was it Gordon Bolland who scored?
Is this the Charlton game?
Yeah, the Charlton game.
Yeah.
So then, of course, we're in the hunt. We go Preston. Our captain, Dennis, we come out. It was a great atmosphere, wasn't it? I mean, there was over 20,000 in the den, and the old den with 20,000 in was a great place to be. The pitch was terrible. I mean, it was raining, it was heavy. But the lads played well. I mean, I had very little to do, thank God, because I was really struggling. They played well, scored the goals, and you could see about 10 minutes from the end. I mean, everybody was, the bloody goal. You know, the bars were like that, weren't they? You know, the crossbar, and everybody's behind the goal. And anyway, We won the game, and as far as we were aware, we were up.
Yeah.
Because we'd heard that they were losing 2-1. So by the time we got to the dressing room, I don't know about you, but I lost my wonderful gloves. I lost me tried to rip the jumper off, and there was so many people on the pitch. I mean, it took us ages to get off. When we got to the dressing room, we were all well happy, you know. And then of course, dear old Ben come in, and he got word from Sheffield Wednesday that the result was not what we wanted. So we'd have to wait till Tuesday. But it was a fantastic occasion for us, you know, because 1 minute we're there, our season had finished, we're second in the league. They're third, a point behind us. There's still a game to go, and the reason they were a game short of us was because they got the semi-final of the Cup, and they lost to Leeds. So it meant that they were always one game behind us. But I think the lads played really well, and I remember an incident with Ketch when he went up for a corner or something, and he ended up having a shot, and his boot flew off. And it went in the net, and he ran all the way back. Do you remember? He ran all the way back with only one boot on. So they come on the attack, and they won a corner, Preston. And I'm standing next to him, and he's gone to me. Oh well, I said to him, I said, "Where's your boot?" He said, "It's down there somewhere." So he said, "Take your boot off, I'll have your one." So I said, "Yeah." I said, "No, you ain't." He said, "Well, you ain't done fuck all." he said, "You can stand there with one boot." So anyway, I don't know whether he got, where did he get his boot back from?
He must have got it back. I don't
You
know.
know, but I remember when he shot.
Probably Jack.
Because that's on the thing. When he shot and he sees his boot fly into the back of the goal. But I don't know about all the others, but I had very little to do that day. I mean, these lads played really well, and we played well as a team. And, I mean, there we go. We wished, and
Brownie, were you involved that day?
No, I was in the stand.
Okay, to the stand. Your time came a little bit later. You played regularly this season or two after that, didn't you?
Yeah.
But any recollections at all? Was it you made the phone call to the police on the Tuesday night?
No, I was just
you
looking
want a
to get.
bonus, Brownie, was you?
Yeah, I was just looking to get down in the changing room with the boys.
Yeah. Alan, what's your recollection of the Preston game?
Well, disappointment, obviously, but as Brian said, we played well on the day and did what we had to do. But the what was out of our hands, we could do nothing about, and it turned out that they got the result on the Monday, and it was back to square one the following season.
I'll tell you what would be interesting. Can anybody here remember the first league game of that season?
Bristol City.
It was a memorable one, wasn't it? Bristol City away. Score?
3-3.
3-3.
But
Lads,
we were talking about our last pre-season game when we went to Southend and got caned
4-1.
4-1. I mean, it must have been something to do with the goal. That's 7 goals in 2 bleeding games.
I'd like to ask the lads, did you all think as a team that you have a real chance of getting promoted to the First Division when you started that season?
Not really, I don't know.
No, I don't think it was ever mentioned. There was no sort of aim or any achievements that was laid out in front of us that this is what we're going to do this year. It was, I don't think Benny wasn't one for sort of lots of talking, really. Never, we didn't have many regular team talks or chats. He was on the field, on the training. He was had his little routines of what he wanted you to do and everything. But I don't ever remember going through a coaching session where he would put on the defence and he would, sort of say, well, you've got to go there and I want you to do this, or it was like,
No, he pretty much left us to sort ourselves out, didn't he?
Yeah. But on the other hand, he was, I like Benny. I've had a few managers and he was, well, I always remember, because there was a game once. I think we played up at Sheffield and we didn't play very well, and there was a bit of arguments on the way home amongst the players, and because poor old Eamon always used to take the rap. It was always Eamon didn't do this and I was captain, and I remember having a bit of a go with Benny on the way home and saying about you do this and do that and everything, and we had a bit of a row. Monday morning I'd walk in and the first person that used to come up to me in the corridor was Benny, put his arm around my shoulder. All right, son, how's the wife? How's the kids? All right? Okay, let's go. And that was it, forgotten, which is a great attitude to have. I mean, I've been at some clubs with a manager and I got injured and he didn't talk to me for 6 weeks and walked past me in the corridor. And yet Benny was like spot on for that. I don't know how you guys felt.
His man management was first class.
Yeah, no, it was very good. Yeah.
It's good. I think he was very underrated as a manager, not saying by the supporters, but by the general football fraternity. When you think of, he bought Keith Weller for £15,000, me for £15,000, Bryan. You was 5. Robbery for 6,000. Wasn't he in from Chelmsford? They got done on you, didn't they?
Oh, not much.
And Poss for 17,500. £100,000. Keith 100,000. Derek 100,000. And after 9 years, £70,000 for me. Whole city have never got over it.
We did have some people around that time who you could have called coaches. Now, you took over from Laurie, didn't you? Laurie Leslie,
yes.
In the goal. He could coach a bit, couldn't he?
Well, he could throw a ball at you.
That was his coaching.
That was about it.
And didn't we have Bill Dodge in at some point?
No, not
around then.
Yeah, Jimmy Andrews.
Jimmy Andrews.
Scottish fella.
Andy Nelson.
Jimmy Barrett,
yeah. Andy Nelson.
And what was their role around this time? What did Benny get them to do?
Just take the training, really. Not have much input with talking, because Benny wasn't really like that. But just taking the training, warm-ups, and that sort of thing.
Jimmy Andrews was... Do you remember him coaching?
Oh, yeah.
Allegedly a very good coach for that time.
He was a good coach.
He discovered John Barnes. Because I lived very near. John Barnes was playing for a team called Sudbury Court, which is part of Wembley, isn't it, as an area. And Jimmy Andrews lived in Wembley and was over watching this little team, Sudbury Court, saw John Barnes, took him to Watford. So that was Jimmy Andrews. Who else? Jimmy Barrett, did you say? Was it Jimmy?
Jimmy Barrett, yeah.
He came from West End, didn't he?
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy Andrews was as well, wasn't he?
Jimmy Andrews was, yeah.
Who
And
else
Andy
can you
Nelson
remember?
was as well.
Yeah.
What did Dr. Bumler do?
A little Bumler.
Who?
Bumler.
A little
Dr.
Indian,
Boomler?
little Indian doctor,
He was the
Dr.
club
Bumler.
doctor. Do you remember Dr. Boomler?
Yeah.
Dr. Bumler.
Did you ever have to have treatment from Dr. Boomler, any of you?
Yeah, well, a lot of the players used to take the piss out of him,
That's a shot.
and I had to go down to have some treatment. I got bashed up by who became my wife. It was
You got bashed up by a lady who became his wife.
It was the Cheltenham game with a big crowd. I'd said that I'd go down and take her out for dinner. Well, I couldn't get out of the ground, so by the time I got down there, she was seething. So as I walked in the door, she bashed me on the back, put me back out. So I had to, yeah, and I had to go down to Bumler Bill. We used to call him Bumler Bill. And you remember his sister? She used to wear the lovely saris. Do you remember her? No. So I went to the surgery, and Jack had phoned down and said I was going down. And she said, he's looking forward to seeing you, because we used to take the mickey out of him. And he lay on the bed. I got on the bed and all that. And he was so small. He stood on the bed on top of me, and he was pulling my arm, and it was the pain. I don't know why he was doing that, because it wasn't there. and he said to me, and his words were, I don't swear, but I'm fucking enjoying this. Yeah, and then he pulled the leg. His sister come in with 2 teas, and she was laughing her head off. And I said to her, "What are you laughing at?" She said, "I can hear you grunting and him swearing." She said, "And he doesn't swear." Yeah, I'm fucking enjoying this. Bumler.
Bumler Bill.
Bumler Bill, we used to call him.
Where was his surgery?
In Plumstead.
Yeah.
Plumstead.
I was at West Brom, we played West Brom, and I got kicked in the face at West Brom. These teeth disappeared. And I'm coming at half time, and Jack says, "You'll have this, you'll cut my lip." So he's come in, Boomler. What do you used to call him,
Bumler Bill. Yeah.
He's come in, and Jack said, "He's going to need some stitches, Doc." He said, "Oh yes," he said, "I'll do that." And he's got that needle here. He was fucking like this. Anyway, it's one of them. He put it in here, and then he went up there like that. You know when they go right, and so you could see it coming down again. Put it in, and he's put 4 stitches in my lip. So I said, "Doc, you got to stop, mate. You got to stop." So he said, "What's the problem?" I said, "You've sewn me tongue to me." Oh, he said, "We better start again." Benny said, "Give her brandy, you'll be all right."
Can you top that one, Alan?
No, not at all.
No.
I hope you enjoyed the first half of that story, and I'll be back with the second episode covering this most famous of periods in Millwall's history next week.